Welcome to Someone's Gotta Drive. I want to make a special warning that this podcast has to deal with drug addiction, childhood traumas, and parental addiction. In my last episode, I talked about how my mother had her bowel surgery, what we did to save her life, and how we tried to get her life back on track. I was in the process of planning a wedding, and about 6 months before that wedding, my mother had decided to have her bowels reattached. It was really difficult for me. I remember begging her not to do it. And when she said, I don't understand, I want to be able to use my body like everyone else. I want to be able to go poop on the toilet like everyone else. I want your father to look at me longingly in a sexual manner because we haven't even had sex in a long time because I'm just so disgusting. And I was just like, ugh, last thing you want to hear about. But I guess I could understand. But what she didn't understand was I got to finally watch her eat whatever she wanted. I'll never forget watching her eat corn. And she was just like, oh, corn, this is so amazing. She ate whatever she wanted. Her health was in the best it had ever been. And on top of it all, she had also gone ahead and weaned off of the pain medication. Not all of it, but enough that they were willing to reattach her bowels. And my argument was, if you feel so good, if you feel so great, why are you going to screw that up? Because you get your bowels reattached, all that happens in my eyes is scar tissue. That causes more bowel obstructions that put you back right into where you were. But she wanted to use her body the way anyone else does. So she went through with the surgery. It took her some time to heal, but thankfully the wedding wasn't that difficult for us to plan. And as much as I really wanted to postpone it, and at this point, really use my mother's surgery even as an excuse to postpone it, my boyfriend was not letting that happen. So we moved on with the wedding. And, I had a few friends as my bridesmaids. My sister was my maid of honor. But that Christmas, some of his friends had decided that they really wanted to try to get into his sister's pants. And she proceeded to play them like a fiddle, sitting in my living room on the couch, trying to get them to fight against each other and see who was going to take her home. Her alcoholism was a big problem. And I made the decision right then and there that I did not want her at my wedding. If you're going to force me to get married in this time frame now, I'm going to tell you that your sister is not welcome because I'm not going to have that. And that's how that went. I ended up finding a childhood friend of mine actually on, I think, Facebook or MySpace or something, and paid for her to come out from Ohio and be part of my wedding. It was the first time I had seen her since 8th grade. All of our friends got together at the rehearsal. We had a Jack and Jill bachelor and bachelorette party. And we all got horrifically drunk. But that night, one of my friends, her leg started swelling. And we didn't know if she had been bitten by a spider. And the next morning, it didn't look any better. At first, it looked like a bug bite. So we decided to draw a ring around it and see what happens. But it got bigger. So I took her to the emergency room. And I called her fiance and said, hey, I had to take her to the emergency room because her leg is huge and I don't know what's going on, but it could be anything. And it ended up being a blood clot. So here I am, my maid of honor, or one of my, actually, yeah, she was my maid of honor, not my sister. My sister was a bridesmaid. My maid of honor was in the hospital with a blood clot, and we didn't know she was going to make it to the wedding. That was warning number one. So the day of the wedding, my flowers came, and they weren't like this big bouquet. It was just a dozen roses in a very small bundle. So we went ahead, and my friend went and doctored them all up. My sister helped my mom get ready, and they had gone out, picked this lovely blue dress, and my mom, for some reason that day, decided that she could not fit into it and proceeded to wear a denim blue dress to my wedding. And she had been wanting to wear that dress for months. But my sister kept telling her, no, you gotta wear a more formal, more better dress. And the day came and my mother just went, nope, can't fit in it. I'm wearing my denim dress that I want. I didn't care. My dad wore a tux. I wore a beautiful wedding gown. My boyfriend, who was turning into my husband, wore a beautiful tux as well. His mother was so excited. Her boyfriend paid for a limo for us to go from the church to my parents' house. We had a bunch of family and friends who watched us get married in that church. And then we drove an hour from the church to my parents' house. Some of my husband's friends, one of which decided to drive himself, and he had two vehicles. And the vehicle that ran well, he decided to lend to somebody who he was hoping would date one day, and decided to take the broken down vehicle, in which he broke down somewhere on I-95 for 4 hours. Because we were waiting for him, the best man proceeded to take his, at that time, underage girlfriend to go have sex in in a car in one of the fields where my family's house was. I felt like, yeah, I got married, but my reception is an utter disaster. We were in the basement waiting. I was starving. All I wanted was some food and something to drink, and I couldn't even get that because we had to wait for these people to show up so we could make our grand entrance. And finally, I just said, screw it. I'm not waiting for them anymore. I'm hungry. In every single one of the photos that I see of me, I'm, for the most part, happy. But you will see a lot of photos of me going, what? Huh? Like, why are you doing this? Why? Because I'm being told that someone's stuck on the side of the road or something else is wrong. Every time I turned around, something else was wrong. And all I wanted was to eat my food and have a good time. But the people that we put in charge to do certain things like usher and things like that were just nowhere to be found. They couldn't take it upon themselves for one day to put their selfish needs aside for us. That's how I saw it. Meanwhile, my mother, even though we knew that she had had this bowel reattachment surgery, she had been acting and feeling great all day. But now we're home, and she proceeds to hide herself in her room. She had promised my dad that she wouldn't be drinking, but we had alcohol at this wedding, and I figured, it's a special occasion. Why not? So she ended up taking alcohol up to her room and grabbing a bunch of pills and proceeded to get high and drunk by herself in her room. Few photos where she is around, but other than that, she was nowhere to be found. We had lots of family and friends there that day as well, and it was a beautiful reception. But it was another situation where I felt like the people around me were all just selfish and cared about themselves, and today was supposed to be my day. our day. So around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock that day, I said, I'm really done. I would just like to go home. I'm done. And ended the party and went home. And we proceeded to open our gifts and sit with other, like my now mother-in-law and, talk about what a great time we had while I really just tried to paint a smile on my face and act like I had a great day. Meanwhile, our honeymoon was then going to be to Busch Gardens. So we were going to take a week. We got a 3-day pass to go to Busch Gardens. I took my friend to the airport, swung in to drop something off to my sister in Virginia, made our way to Busch Gardens in a car with no air conditioning and 100-degree heat. I was so relieved when we finally got there to get into a hotel room with some air conditioning because I was just done. Next day, we proceeded to start by going to Busch Gardens, going to the water park, because honestly, the water park's always my favorite. We tried going on roller coasters, but I don't know if it was heat exhaustion or maybe I had smoked too much. I don't know. But those roller coasters were making me so nauseous. So I asked, can we just wait until tonight? It's 100 degrees out here. We're walking on black asphalt. I'm not feeling so good. Can we try this at night? And that's what we did. So now we're trying to find things to do during the day in Williamsburg. We went to a movie, we drove around, we went shopping. We really did have quite a lovely time, other than for me getting nauseous on almost every single roller coaster that I went on. And then we proceeded to drive home. While we were on the honeymoon, my mother-in-law was supposed to be watching our dog. And she felt like she couldn't do it. She had other things she needed or wanted to do. And so she called the best man to come and watch our apartment and our dog, in which I was not very happy with that because A, it's my decision on who watches my dog and my house. But additionally, he also had an underage girlfriend. And I did not want to be harboring an underage girl in my apartment where they would be having sex. I did not want us getting in trouble for any of these situations. Did not want to be part of it. But I was being told I was being out of line and being too obnoxious about it. And I knew this is how it's going to go with this wedding, with this marriage. I'm going to say I don't agree with something because it's not right. And it's going to be like, so what? Who cares? So we go back to work. And a month in, I thought everything was great. And all of a sudden, my husband comes up to me and says, you have to take me home and you have to take me home now. I'm like, why? Because I've been fired. What do you mean you've been fired? You've been working here for the past 3 years. I don't understand what's going on. Well, they said that they caught me looking at porn on the internet. Okay, well, that is definitely a fireable offense. Was it true? I don't want to talk about it right now. You just have to get me home. I'm like, okay. So I get him home. I come back to work. Now I'm being called into the office. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here. And they said, well, we kept wondering why we kept seeing him over at the computer so often during these certain times. And it's not just him on camera. It's him and his coworker, his friend. And he said, if you look here, they're constantly looking at the computer. Now, why do 2 people need to always be looking at this computer? Like, I'm not really sure. Well, then we went into the browser history. And here is a copy of his browser history. And sure enough, it was porn. All porn. And I was just like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Where does this leave me? And they were like, well, you haven't done anything wrong. You can still keep your job, but you have to understand where we're coming from. And I'm like, I very much do. And so I go back to work. And now another boss is talking to me. You got to understand where they're coming from. And the game plan was that I was going to go back to work and keep working while he found another job. But him looking for another job wasn't exactly looking for another job. It was him hanging out with a local drug dealer, trying to earn his trust so he would be fronted drugs that he could then sell. Trying to tell me there are no jobs around us. There is no work near us. Now, mind you, this is 2008. We're going now through the worst housing recession and the worst recession that we had seen in years. This was not the time to lose your job. And sure enough, he couldn't find work. But I didn't agree with him also selling drugs. In the process, his mother, who also got the same kind of opiates that my mother did, she too would sell her drugs to make extra money instead of taking them. And proceeded to tell my now husband that if he sold drugs for her, she would give him a little kickback. But the funny thing was it was never money. It was always more drugs that he then starts taking, or that he then tries to sell. And now people are coming to my house, snorting these pills on my coffee table, and then leaving. And when I said, I don't agree with this, he said, well, what do you want them to do? Leaving here and getting caught with it and then getting traced back to us? No, I don't want you doing it at all, actually. I proceeded to then leave that warehouse and go into sales with the promise of making more money than what I was making at the warehouse, because honestly, we needed it. We were not going to survive on that warehouse income alone, not on one. We were just making it on two. So I proceeded to work in sales and get into marketing. I tried selling, funny enough, meat out of the back of a truck in the middle of Baltimore, in the middle of Washington, D.C. At one point, I actually brought my husband with me and just said, you know what? You can't find a job, so you're just going to come work with me, and we're just going to try to sell this stuff to the best of our ability. In the meantime, my mom is also still having health issues because, like I had mentioned before, bowels get reattached, cause scar tissue, causes bowel blockages, and now we are in bowel blockage mode all over again. Sometimes she needs to have surgeries to fix a little hole in her bowels. Sometimes she's just having bowel obstructions. And honestly, she is now becoming a big handful for the caregiver. Caregiver is now telling us that, I don't know why I'm working here. I left for a minute to go to the store to get a pack of cigarettes. Came back and your mother was sloshed, passed out drunk on the deck. Great. What do we do? What do you do with that? So here my mother is getting trashed. Here my husband is trying to sell his mother's pills, take those pills. I've got drugs all around me. And I remember going, 5 years ago when I met you, I told you, I don't care if you drink, I don't care if you smoke. But the pills have got to stop. I don't want pills in my life. And now I'm having that argument with him. I told you I don't want pills in my life. I don't want them in my house. I don't want them around me. This is not me. This is not what I want. I've dealt with this crap for long enough. I deal with it with my mother, and this is how it all starts. Whether it's due to back pain or because you need money or whatever, Everyone's lives are revolved around opioids. Whether it's to make money, to get high, it's not me. It's not what I want in my life. Get a real job. So, over the matter of about 4 months from the time I got married, he finally gets a job. But I am officially done. And I knew it. I knew when I got married that I was going to have to get a divorce. Did I know it was going to be this soon or this quick? No. No. But here I am. I'm going to have to annul this marriage because my uncle was right. I am the one making the money. I am the one trying to live the good life. I'm trying to do all the right things. And he's just baggage. He's bringing into my life all the things I didn't want. You know, it was one thing when you were a teenager and you just want to do stupid shit. We're not teenagers anymore. We're in our 20s. We just got married. We're supposed to care for one another, but I keep being the one to hold the burden. And now we're fighting. And why are we fighting? Because he's telling me that I should be sticking by him through, tooth and nail, through thick and thin. That's what our vows were. But were our vows, I'm going to watch porn at work and lose my job and make you do everything? No, not at all. I'm going to sell pills and give you a life that you never wanted and you vocalized from the start. Those were not our vows. That is not the life I planned on leading. And so I left. In a matter of those 4 months, all the weight that I had gained, lost. My mother even looked at me and said, "Where you were 125 pounds, now you're skin and bones. What's going on?" And I told her that he got caught watching porn and that he was selling pills out of the house and it wasn't the life I wanted and not what I was expecting. And she said, "Then come home. Come home. You can always come home." And that was the first time since I had been kicked out of my house that she had said, "You can always come home. You, only you, not him." And I said, okay. And so I proceeded to leave him. He then did get a job working at some pizza shop delivering pizzas, and the car broke down one day. And I was out with some friends. My dad called me and he said, the car broke down. I'm out here helping him fix it. And I said, "Just take him home. I'll talk to him later." And he's like, "Well, he's insisting to go back to my house." And I said, no, take him home. I will talk to him later. And he said, "No, that's not how this is going right now, Jess." And I said, "Okay, then put him on the phone." He said, "What?" And I said, "I'm leaving you." He said, "But I finally got a job. I'm doing all the things that you said." And I said, "I'm done. I'm done." And with my dad there, and I turned around and said, "Dad, take him home. Do not take him to your house." And my dad then took him to our apartment. And my poor father, God bless him, he went through hell and back with my ex-husband. Is she seeing someone else? And he was like, "I don't know. I can't say. I don't know what's going on between the two of you." Because I wouldn't tell my dad those things. I only told my mom. So, he didn't really know. But I was just, nope, take him home. I will talk to him later. I am done. And yeah, I was done.